अस्सलाम वालेकुम। आज हमारा लेक्चर नंबर 18 है और जैसे कि हम पढ़ चुके हैं चैप्टर नंबर 2 पूरा, लेकिन इसकी कुछ चीज़ें जैसे समरी के तौर पे मैं आपको वीडियोस की सूरत में जो है वो दिखा रहा हूँ। और आज जो मैं वीडियो दिखाऊंगा उसके अंदर जो CPU के बारे में, जो डेस्कटॉप और लैपटॉप है, इनके क्या डिफरेंस है, इसके अलावा इंटरनल और एक्सटर्नल डिवाइसेस जो इसके साथ कनेक्टेड होती हैं, इनपुट आउटपुट डिवाइसेस हैं, पेरिफेरल डिवाइसेस हैं, मेमोरी है और उसकी टाइप्स हैं। ये सारी डिस्कशन जो है हम कर चुके हैं अपने चैप्टर नंबर 2 के अंदर, लेकिन समरी की सूरत में मैं आपको एक वीडियो दिखाऊंगा, इसको देखें और इससे भी समझें।
I typically refer to the computer I use as my laptop. The one my son uses is our desktop, even though it doesn't sit on the desk. How about we go shopping for a new computer system for you? First, we'll have to figure out if a desktop or laptop is going to be best for you. One thing that I'll use in terminology is the system unit. This is the case that contains all of the components needed for your computer to work. The two constructions available to you are the desktop or tower or a laptop. Laptops are for the user who prefer portability. This unit is common for someone like you, a college student, consumers who travel frequently, and business people who find themselves working in places other than their office. The desktop or tower is intended for a user who doesn't need a computer that is portable. They are larger in design and often have more features and computing power. Now that you know for sure what the difference between the two are, which system seems like it would be best for your situation? Let's talk about the details of how computers we're looking at are put together. Many of the components I'll show you will have more than one choice for you. Your budget is going to be what drives many of the decisions that you make. Now, the first thing is the motherboard. It's the basis of your computer. It's the first component installed in the system unit, and it holds all of the circuitry that ties the functions of the computer components together. You can kind of think of it like your car, which has many computer systems of its own. If you have a frame and tires, you've got a car, or you've got a system unit, but it won't take you very far. Now add your engine, the motherboard, where all the systems tie in one way or another, and you've got the start of a working vehicle. The motherboard and circuitry need to have power. There is a power box included with your system unit, and you'll see a cord coming up the back of your computer for that. The central processing unit, or the brains of the computer, sits on the motherboard and does actually have its own cooling pad. The processors now are so fast they need to be cooled down. All the instructions you give the computer, like a click of a mouse, go through the CPU, which processes in billions of cycles per second. Commonly installed processors have quad cores, or 4 separate processors in one component. There are 6-core and 8-core available, and the more advanced the technology, the higher the cost. That's one of the choices you might need to make. Next to the CPU sits the cache. That's C-A-C-H-E, or the temporary memory where things you are working on sit for quick interpretation by the CPU. The RAM chip is also near this location. Random access memory is volatile or temporary memory. Whenever you turn on a program, its instructions are stored in RAM while the machine is on. Once you shut the machine down, both the cache and the RAM are completely cleared out. RAM storage is common at 8, 10, or 12 gigabytes. ROM, or read-only memory, is located here as well. This is a permanent or non-volatile memory. As soon as you turn on your computer, the startup instructions that are stored in ROM begin to execute. Even when you turn it off, the instructions stored in ROM remain. So if you have a machine that's Windows, as soon as you hit the power up button, you'll get a short screen that might give you a message from the manufacturer. And then in the background, you'll just see black and the Windows logo come through and it'll say starting Windows. What's going on there is your ROM, as soon as you hit the power button, your ROM was kicking in and starting all those instructions for system checks up. The part attached to the motherboard you're most likely to recognize is the hard drive. The hard drive doesn't sit directly on the motherboard, but it is connected to circuitry by electrical wire. The hard drive stores software that you've put in there, like Firefox, WordPad, or a music player. It also stores the data files those programs have created and used. Hard drive storage commonly begins at about 1 terabyte now and goes up to 2.5 terabytes. So take a peek at the video card or the graphics card. This card is used to process images so you can see them on your computer. As a standard computer user, the video card included with the system you're looking at will suffice. If you're a gamer or really into working with photos or digital art, you may be looking for higher-end cards. These cards are more expensive, but typically have their own CPU for better and faster processing of images. Many video cards now allow for more than one monitor to be hooked up to the system. I don't know about you, but I really like that I can listen to music with my computer when I'm working or cleaning the house. The sound card on the motherboard lets us hear from an internal speaker. We can also plug in peripheral devices such as speakers, microphones, or headphones. You should think about where you'll be using your computer. If you're going to end up needing to use headphones most of the time, or speakers that are included with your system, the stock sound card will work just fine for you. If you want something that jams, you may need to upgrade. A part of the system unit that most of us take for granted these days is the Wireless Local Area Network card, or the LAN card. This is the card you actually don't see signs of from the outside of your unit, but it is what lets us connect to our wireless internet. Another way to connect to network is by hardwire or plugging a jack into the network interface card. This looks like a telephone receptacle, but is slightly larger. Near the NIC on a laptop, you'll usually find some sort of optical drive. Optical drives are read and written with laser. We'll see an optical drive on the front of a desktop unit. Most common optical drives in use currently are the DVD or digital video disc and the CD or compact disc. The drive is connected to the motherboard for power by electrical wiring. Shopping for a new unit, people find the optical drive installed is perfectly usable for both media and general use for playing movies or music and burning or saving data. A Blu-ray drive is available to you. It is a little bit higher in cost, but if the extra quality is important to you, it is something that's out there. Today's system utilizes a variety of peripheral devices. Those are the things that sit around the system unit. These devices are usually connected to the system by USB ports. Universal Serial Bus technology is one which allows for speedy transmission of data via a cable and specific type of input head. Peripherals which may be familiar to you are monitors, printers, keyboard, mouse, and speakers. Choosing peripherals you want with a new computer system depends on what you desire. If you're looking for a new printer, do you want a laser printer or an inkjet printer? That decision may be made because of how much money you have to spend up front. Keyboard and mouse included with the system, are those good enough, or do you need something that's multimedia or ergonomic? There are a lot of different questions to consider when you actually look at your budget for a new system. This brings us full circle back to the system unit. Let's do a quick review of the terms we've covered. The system unit is the case the motherboard and other parts are installed in. The motherboard is the piece that ties all of the components of the computer together. The CPU, or central processing unit, is the brains of the computer. Random access memory, or RAM, is temporary or volatile and holds data and instructions for software currently in use. Cache is temporary memory located close to the CPU for faster processing of instructions. ROM is read-only memory, it's permanent, and it holds startup instructions for the operating system. Your power source is the receptacle that provides the electricity to your entire system unit. Your network interface card is used to hardwire your system unit to a network. The wireless card is most commonly used for accessing wireless internet. Examples of the optical drive are the CD, DVD, and a Blu-ray player. The video card is used to convert signals and process instructions so we can see images on the monitor. Your sound card is used to send sounds through to speakers or headphones or to receive input from microphones. The hard drive is where programs and data are stored until they're specifically removed. And finally, peripherals are components located around the system unit, such as monitors, keyboards, mouse, and speakers. Computers have many complex pieces. On the motherboard, you will find many things including the central processing unit, random access memory, and read-only memory. The most vital piece is the CPU. The CPU is the brains of the computer. The central processing unit has to think through every instruction generated by your use of the computer. These instructions include having the arithmetic logic unit, ALU, performing the logarithmic calculations to interpret these instructions. The processing is done at a speed that is nearly impossible for our brains to comprehend, let alone actually perform. Speeds are referred to with the term Hertz, H-E-R-T-Z, not the car rental, by the way. The speeds are actually in the millions, mega, or billions, giga, machine cycles per second. Think of it as revolutions per minute in an engine, but a heck of a lot faster. The path of thinking includes volatile and non-volatile memory, or temporary and permanent, respectively. Random access memory, RAM, is volatile or temporary memory. It wakes up when you turn on your computer and holds the information you are working on. Think of those different windows being open and the programs you're using. Those sit in RAM when you're working on them. They're right there up front for easy access and processing. And even more upfront memory is called the cache, or C-A-C-H-E. It's simply another form of working memory. Because it is volatile, it will empty when the computer is shut off. Cache is located on or near the CPU. It holds instructions that are repetitive for program use. Because of its proximity to CPU, the cache doesn't have to take the long way to work, the system bus. The bus is an electronic line that sends and receives data. As soon as the machine is shut down, both RAM and the cache are cleared out. RAM is located in slots on the motherboard and is measured in storage capacity of megabytes, or just over 1 million bytes, or gigabytes, over 1 billion. The more RAM installed on a computer, combined with a CPU which has high processing speed, the stronger the computing power will be. For today's basic user and personal computer shopper, some RAM acronyms may be confusing. In-depth analyses of each are not necessary, but note the progression of today's technology. Regular RAM was the original. SRAM, or static RAM. This is constant and doesn't refresh, kind of like the humming of an electric line. SDRAM, or synchronous dynamic RAM. In this, the refresh signal comes when the user is processing some input. We wouldn't even notice the wait. You could think of this like the crew of a rowing team. They all work in unison. DRAM, or dynamic RAM, refreshes frequently, like when you need refreshing from being on the beach all day. And finally, DDR1, DDR2, and DDR3 RAM is the progression for double data rate RAM. The process is synchronous, as is the SDRAM, but it has stricter control of signals. DDR3 RAM is the current consumer purchasable version of RAM. If RAM is temporary, then what's permanent? Permanent memory does not disappear when the machine is powered off, as RAM does. Read-only memory, or ROM, is used to begin the startup process for your computer. As soon as you press the power on button, system checks are performed and the operating system startup instructions that are stored in ROM execute. You may notice this on a Windows machine. It now keeps a black background. You see the Windows logo fly in and it says starting Windows. All those system checks that were stored in ROM are going on at that time. This allows your operating system to fully execute and let you then fire up the software you want to work with. Because ROM is permanent, it does not disappear when the machine is powered off as RAM does. Remember, RAM is temporary or volatile and stores information currently being used in the front of the electrical path of the computer for quick access. ROM, or the non-volatile read-only memory, permanently holds the operating system and is used for system startup. Finally, the central processing unit, or brains of the computer, and the arithmetic logic unit, or ALU, are located on the motherboard and quickly think through and calculate every instruction thrown at them. Without these, your computer cannot function and you can't use it.